Today we are going to discuss on the classification of wheat, and we are going to start the classification with the introduction. The morphological characters of plants are closely related to herbicidal absorption, retention and translocation. The wheats belonging to the same group are likely to have same kind of response to specific herbicides or cultural or mechanical methods. Proper weed identification is critical to getting the correct recommendation for weed control options. Proper identification can mean selecting the correct herbicide needed to control a particular weed, or can result in control cost saving if a less expensive herbicide is available. Sometimes proper plant identification can indicate that no action needs to be taken if the plant turns out to be an occasional interloper or rare native plant, or simply a plant that can be easily managed with some simple agronomic adjustment. There are many ways on which wheat can be classified into groups for convenience of planning, interpreting and recording control measures against them. Some important classifications of wheat are as follows. Classification based on morphology or cotyledon characters. This is the most widely used classification by the wheat scientists. So, wheats are generally divided into three groups. That is, number 1, grasses, number 2, seeds, number 3, broadleaf wheats. Based on cotyledon characters, they are classified into monocots and dicots. Narrow and upright leaves, broad and horizontal leaves, parallel venation, reticular venation, retention of herbicide is less, retention of herbicide is more, and it have advantageous root system, taproot system, and the growing point is open. Classification based on habitat or situation. Depending upon the place of their occurrence, they are classified into terrestrial and aquatic weeds. Terrestrial weeds are again classified into number 1, cropland weeds, weeds in field, example echinoclea in rice. Number 2, non-cropland weeds, weed in wasteland, example Tribulus terrestris. Number 3, grassland weeds, example Vernonia and Rumex species. Number 4, weeds of lawn and public park, example Lepia modiflora and Eunusia indica. Number 5, orchard or garden weeds, example Euphorbia geniculata and Emperita cylindrica. Number 6, weeds of plantation crops, example Euphanthorium species, Macania migrantha. And number 7, parasitic weeds, example Laurentus. Number 8, roadside weeds, for example Euphorbia, Lantana camera. And aquatic weeds are again classified into the following. That is, number 1, submerged weeds, example Hydrilla. Number 2, immersed weed, for example Typha species. Floating weeds, for example Ecornia crassipis. And classification is also based on origin. And number 1, indigenous wheat. All the native wheat of the country comes under this group, and most of the wheats are indigenous. Indigenous wheats are seen within the geographical boundaries of origin, and their dissemination does not have geographical boundaries, and natural enemies already exist. For example, like sorghum helipens, Cynodon dactylon, and Echinoclea colonna. Introduced or exotic wheats or alien wheats. They are the wheats introduced from other countries, and these wheats are normally troublesome and control become difficult. They are not native of India. They were introduced into India. They disseminate from their origin. For example, like Parthenium hysterophorus, Argemon mexicana, and Lantana camera. Classification also based on association. When two plants are live together, it is called association. So based on association, wheats are again classified as season-bound wheats, crop-bound wheats, and crop-associated wheats. Number A, season-bound wheats. They are seen in particular season, irrespective of crops. These are either summer annual or winter annuals. For example, like sorghum's helipens is a summer perennial, and Cirsium arvens is a winter perennial. Phalaris minor is a winter seasonal annual. And number B, crop-bound wheats. Wheats which usually parasite the host crop partially or fully for their nourishment. That is, parasitism are also called as parasitic wheats. Those parasites which attack roots are termed as root parasite, and those which attack shoot of other plants are called as stem parasites. Example, orobens, or commonly known as broom rape, is a complete root parasite in tobacco. Coscota, or which is also known as dodder, is a complete stem parasite in lucerne. And number C, crop associated wheat. These are also crop specific due to mimicry and need for specific microclimate and ready contamination with the crop. For example, like Echinoclea colonum, which is also known as jungle rice, mimic the rice crop. Avena fateua, which is also known as wild oat, and Phalaris minor, Canara grasses, both mimic the wheat, and Laurentus in tea garden. Classification based on nature of stem. Depending upon the development of bark tissue on their stems and branches, which are classified into woody, semi-woody, and herbaceous weeds. Woody weeds. Weeds include shrub and undershrub and are collectively called brush weeds. For example, like Lantana camera is an example of brush weeds. Semi-woody weeds. For example, like Croton sparciflorus is an example of semi-woody weeds. Herbaceous weeds. Weeds having green, succulent stems are herbaceous weeds. For example, like Amaranthus viridis and Chenopodium album. Based on soil pH, which are also again classified into three categories. Number 1, acidophile weeds, that is weeds habitat on acid soils. Example, Rumex acetosilla and Theridium species. Basophile weeds, weeds dominate on saline and alkaline soil. For example, like Salsola species dominate saline soil, whereas Crisa erectari dominate in alkaline soils. Neutrophile, weeds of neutral soil. For example, like Eclipha indica and Spargula arvensis are example of neutrophile weeds. Again, classification is also based on life cycle, or which is also known as ontogeny. Based on lifespans or ontogeny, which are classified as annual, biennial and perennial weeds. Annual weeds complete its life cycle within 1 year or 1 season and propagate by seeds. For example, like Genopodium album, which is also known as lamb quarter. Trinthema species, which is also known as carpet weeds. Biennial weeds. Biennial weeds complete their life cycle within 2 years or 2 seasons. In the first year, vegetative growth happens. In the second year, it produces inflorescence or called bolting. They may propagate either by seeds or vegetative parts or by both. Example, Deutzus carota and Cirsium vulgare. Perennial weeds. Perennial weeds grow more than 2 years, reproduce vegetatively from underground and specialized organs. Example like Cynodon dactylon, or which is known as Bermuda grass, and Agropyron rapens, which is also called as quickgrass. Special classification. Beside the various classes of weeds, a few others deserve special attention due to their specificity. They are number A, poisonous weeds, number B, parasitic weeds, number C, aquatic weeds. Number A, poisonous weeds. The poisonous weeds cause ailment or livestock, resulting in death and cause great loss. These weeds are harvested along with fodder or grasses and fed to cattle, or while grazing the cattle consume these poisonous plants. For example, like Datura fastosa, Datura stromonium are poisonous to animal and human beings. Lognera pusilla is poisonous to cattle. Solanum nigrum is poisonous to children in rare occasion. And parasitic weeds. The parasitic weeds are either total or partial, which means the weeds that depend completely on the host plant are termed as total parasite, while the weeds that partially depend on host plant for mineral and capable of preparing its food from the green leaves are called as partial parasites. Those parasites which attack root are termed as root parasites, and the parasites which attack the shoot of other plants are called as stem parasites. The typical examples of different parasites which are number 1, total root parasite. For example, like Orobens Cernio on tobacco. Partial root parasite, for example, like Striga lutea on sugarcane and sorghum. And total stem parasite, example like Cuscata sinensis on lucerne and onion. Partial stem parasites, for example like Loranthus longiflorus on mango and other trees. And aquatic weeds, unwanted plants which grow in water and complete at least a part of their life cycle in water are called as aquatic weeds. They are further grouped into 4 categories as submerged, immersed, marginal and floating weeds. Summer weeds. These weeds are mostly vascular plants that produce all or most of their vegetative growth beneath the water surface, having two roots, stems and leaf. Example like Caratophyllum demersum, Hydrilla verticillata, etc. Emerge weeds. These plants are rooted in the bottom mud with aerial stems and leaves are or above the water surface. The leaves are broad in many plants and sometimes like grasses. These leaves do not rise and fall with water level as in the case of floating weeds. For example like Typha species. Example like Jusia repens. Marginal weeds. Most of these plants are emerged weeds that can grow in most shoreline areas with a depth of 60 to 90 cm water. These weeds vary in size, shape and habitat. The important genera that come under this group are Typha, Polygonum, Alternanthera, Ipomia. Floating weeds. These weeds have leaves that float on the water surface either singly or in cluster. Some weeds are free floating and some rooted at the mud bottom, and the leaves rise and fall as the water level increases or decreases. Example like Ecornea crassipes, Piscia stratotis, Salvinia, Nymphia pubescens. Facultative weeds. Facultative weeds, also called apophytes, weeds that grow primarily in wild community and migrate to crop field or cultivated environment and associated themselves closely with the man affairs, behave like more competitive weeds, for example like Opuntia delaney. Obligated weeds. Obligate weeds occur only on cultivated land or otherwise disturbed land. They cannot withstand competition from voluntary vegetation in a close community. Less competitive obligate weeds cannot survive and cannot withstand and disappear when the land is not disturbed for 2 to 3 years and kept as fallow, for example like Convolvulus arvensis. Noxious weeds. These weeds are arbitrarily defined as being undesirable, troublesome and difficult to control. They have immense capacity of reproduction and high dispersal capacity. They adopt tricky ways to defy man's effort to remove them. These weeds are also known as special problem weeds. Example like Cyperus rotundus, Cynodon dactylon, Cirsium arvens, Parthenium, Lanthana camera, Sacrum spontaneum, Imperata cylindrica and Striga species, etc. Objectionable weeds. Weeds whose seed is difficult to separate from the crop seed after contamination are called as objectionable weeds. Based on ecological affinities. Weeds of drylands. These are usually hardy plants with deep root systems. They are adapted to withstand drought on account of mucilaginous nature of the stem and hairiness. Example like Tribulus terrestris. Convolvulus arvensis. Weed of wetlands. They are tender annual with semi-aquatic habit. They can thrive well under waterlogged and in partially dry condition. And these are propagated in chiefly by seed, for example like Amania ambasifera, Ellipta alba. So it can be concluded that which have huge innermost species diversity, which varies across climate, soil and physiographies. So proper identification and classification provides an overview of the weed present in crop and non-crop areas. Classification of which are prerequisite for the selection of a better herbicide on account of the different spectra of activity of herbicide over composite culture of weeds. It indicates the time, method and rate of herbicide application in the field based on distribution of these classes of weeds. So proper classification correctly estimate the harmful effect of weeds to crops on visual basis and scientific term.